Hey everyone, welcome to episode 11 of This Is Actually Pretty Cool. This is a web series where I am researching and cooking my way through a cookbook slash memoir. It's by my very favorite actress, and so it is called, appropriately enough, In the Kitchen with Elinor Donahue. So today we are on pages 36 and 37 of the book, and then I'm also pulling from some other sources. And as always, those sources will be listed in the notes for the episode. All right. So if you were able to watch episode 10, you may remember that where we are at this point is it's 1943. Miss Donahue is 6 years old. She's known as Mary Elinor Donahue at this time. And she is in her first movie, which was a film called Mr. Big. So in the last episode, we recapped how Miss Donahue talks about meeting two of the stars of that film, Donald O'Connor, who she had a major crush on, and then Gloria Jean, who is someone she also admired. She'd seen her in other roles, right? So today, Miss Donahue tells us about meeting the other star of the movie Mr. Big, is an actress named Peggy Ryan. So today we're just going to talk about her a little bit. And this comes from Wikipedia, which again will be in the notes for the show. All right. So Peggy Ryan, she was actually born Margaret O. Renee Ryan in 1924. She was a dancer and actress. And she's actually best known for the 5 feature films she did with Donald O'Connor and Peggy Ryan. They were first in a film together in 1942, and audiences really loved this trio together. And Hollywood is really good about, like, if they find a winning formula that's bringing in money, then they're going to go ahead and lock that down and do that formula for as long as they can, right? It's also why we have, what is it now, 247 Fast and Furious movies, okay? So Peggy Ryan came from a performing family. Her parents actually had a vaudeville act called The Merry Dancing Ryan. She joined that before she was 3 years old. So very similar to Miss Donahue. Miss Ryan got that acting bug and performing bug very early on in her life. When she was 4 years old in 1929, she was in a film for the first time, and that film was The Wedding of Jack and Jill. In 1937, so the same year that Miss Donahue was born, she got a role in a movie called Top of the Town. And so at this point, she was 13. And the Wikipedia entry quotes this book. It's called Vaudeville Old and New, an Encyclopedia of Variety Performances in America, Volume 1. And the quote that they provide says, quote, "By then she was outgrowing the kiddie parts, yet not old enough for the teenage roles," which I think is really interesting because she's 13, right? Like an age that literally has the word teen in it. But she is apparently not old enough to actually play teenage roles, oddly. So she continued working in small roles, and then in 1942, that's when she was in a movie called What's Cookin', which was with Gloria Jean and Donald O'Connor. So that's that first movie they do together. And like I said, they made 5 feature films together. And so the character she played in these films was usually, brash, cracked jokes, and really loved boys. She left Universal in 1945. She got married that year, and she divorced in 1952. Did a few more roles with a dancer named Ray McDonald. They actually got married in 1953. They divorced in 1957, and then she got married in 1958. And that's the point where she stopped doing movies, and she said, "Hey, I'm going to be semi-retired, and then I'm also going to do, work in choreography and just kind of taking my experience dancing and just using that for something a little bit different." She did have a recurring role as Secretary Jenny Sherman in a show called Hawaii Five-0, some of you may have heard of, that aired from 1969 to 1976. Now this is actually really cool. She actually trained Las Vegas showgirls in tap dancing in her later years. So she's older and she's still, going strong, right? Training these women in how to tap dance. She had her last public performance, which was at her 80th birthday party, which was in 2004. And she actually, got together with some of her colleagues from her Universal Studio days, and she did this song and dance routine for them. And what is really, really, really super cool is that she actually continued teaching tap dancing until 2 days before her death. And I love hearing about people who were able, due to not having poor health or not having neurocognitive issues or anything like that, really just kind of able to squeeze every last bit out of life, where you're like, oh yeah, they were going strong right up until they died. So I thought that was really cool. She did die at the age of 80. She'd had 2 strokes. And another really cool thing about her is that her ashes were scattered under the Hollywood sign in Hollywood, California, right? So she seems like she was a really cool lady. That is definitely supported by what Miss Donahue says about her. She says, quote, Peggy Ryan was a young girl of many talents, singer, dancer, comic, and she goes on to say she and Donald O'Connor made many movies together and were a great team. Now, this book, like I said, it's from 1998. So at that time, Miss Donahue was, still in touch with Peggy Ryan. She has a quote from her that we'll get to in just a second, and was in touch with Donald O'Connor and Gloria Jean. In his book, Peter Ackerman notes that they remained in touch and they remained friends until, Donald O'Connor and Gloria Jean and Peggy Ryan passed away. So they were friends up until their deaths, which is really cool. Miss Donahue says, Miss Donahue says that when she spoke to her, recently being in 1998, Peggy confided, quote, Donald had strange tastes in food. When we go to the commissary for lunch, he'd put saltines on his ice cream, end quote. I'd love to tell y'all that this is the only instance of a disgusting food combination appearing in this book. Spoiler alert, is not. And don't worry, I'll let you know. You'll know the episode where the other ones come up. You'll know. Anyway, Miss Donahue goes on to say, quote, his favorite dish, according to Peggy, was chicken fried steak with cream gravy. And so, as you may have guessed, today's recipe is chicken fried steak. Just something real quickly before we actually start making it is I've had this dish before, not from the book. I haven't had this recipe, but I have had chicken fried steak. It's pretty big here in the South. And I never thought what's the chicken part coming from? I just, I don't know what I was thinking, right? But once I read the recipe, I was like, where does the chicken part come from, right? And so I checked Wikipedia and I found that the frying method is very similar to the method used to fry chicken. And so that is why it is called chicken fried steak. And with that, it is time to cook. All right, so we have our chicken fried steak recipe. There's actually 2 parts to this recipe. So there's the actual steak part, and then there's also a cream gravy. So we are going to go ahead and do the meat steak part of this first. All right, so you need 2 pounds of lean round steak. I actually did 1.5 pounds, just because that seemed to be the easiest and cheapest way to do this. Also, I'm trying not to eat as much beef, and last episode's recipe was also beef, so I figured, you know, just maybe just 1.5 pounds, that'll be fine, right? So it gave me 4 of these. And this is cubed steak. I asked Google, like, hey, can you use cubed steak for chicken fried steak? And it was like, yeah, in fact, that's the one that's most used because that, the cubed steak is already tenderized. So the recipe does tell us to tenderize the steak. Like I said, this is already tenderized, so no worries there. And then it says cut into steak-sized pieces. I'm just going to leave them like this. Just kind of based on how the rest of the recipe goes. I think that's going to be fine. So then you have 1 cup of all-purpose flour. I'm going to take that into, I'm going to put this in a little bowl just to mix it up. And then you have 2 teaspoons salt. We're going to put that in with the flour. It says 1 to 2 teaspoons pepper. I actually just did 1 teaspoon, so that goes into this little mixture. And then we're just going to go ahead and mix that up. Those are all together. All right. And then it says put this on a plate. We're going to do that. Okay. And I'm going to just spread this kind of evenly. It doesn't say to do that, but I'm just going to do it. All right. Then you take 1 egg, you beat that up, so I've already done that. And you are going to add 1 cup of milk. I'm actually going to just add the egg right here into the milk, just because that's easier than using like yet another dish that I'm going to have to clean later. All right, so we're going to mix it up with my super cute little whisk here. Mix that up. All right, so that's pretty basic. Okay. And then it says to put it in a small, shallow bowl, which I'm not really sure about. So I'm going to use just something like this, assuming that the mixture is not too much for that. So no, that seems pretty good. I didn't really have like a bowl that was more shallow than that. So, okay. All right, so you're going to go ahead and give me a second so I can read this a little better. You go ahead and for each of these, you are going to get another plate to put this in. It's done. Thank you so much for y'all's patience with me. All right, so you're going to dredge the meat in this flour mixture here. See what we're doing. Just kind of get it out. Okay, and then we're gonna dip it in the milk and egg mixture here. So we're just gonna do that. I'm just gonna give it a little bath. And then it says dredge in the flour mixture and again in the flour mixture. So we're just going to do that with the flour mixture. It's really just kind of getting the flour on here, so that's sort of like that breading, right? Do that. I'm just going to, it's hard to kind of drag it. Just because the meat is more like, how do I describe it? It's it's more like hamburger meat than it is like a solid steak. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So again, just our thing, this, give it a little egg and milk bathy, and then flour mixture, and flip it. And flip it good. Okay. It's going to go on our plate there. And again, do y'all know where I got the steak and the milk from? If you guessed Aldi, get yourself a little treat. You burned it. Okay. Little bath. Splish splash. Egg and milk bath. I hope this is really good. Da 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 da. More flour. Flour. So this is actually my first time making chicken fried steak. Very excited. I like how relatively simple it seems. I mean, we haven't gotten to the gravy part yet, or we also haven't gotten to the part where I have to cook this over really high heated oil. So see how that goes. Little bathity bath there. Okay. That. Look at my like ridiculous hands right now. Right, that. They had different criteria in the Wikipedia article for chicken fried steak, like, oh, it's called chicken fried steak when it's this, and it's called country fried steak when it's this. And I can't remember what the criteria was. And then I think some people just also use it interchangeably. And I did read in the Wikipedia thing that they believe the recipe came from German immigrants coming to America. All right, so we have moved over to the stove. The next part of the recipe calls for us to put a cup and a half of vegetable oil in a skillet, and then you heat it until it's very hot, but it's not smoking. I've actually tried this twice now. And something about me that makes cooking really not pleasant sometimes is I am absolutely terrified of popping oil. Like I don't cook bacon in my house because of that. You know, a lot of teenagers and young adults worked like in fast food restaurants. I didn't do that. Not because I thought I was, you know, too good for it, but because, you know, popping oil. So anyway, I've tried this twice. I tried it first in with the 1.5 cups of oil, which is a lot of oil. And then I tried it with half a cup of oil, but I had this on the lowest setting. And y'all, it was popping. I mean, I've had to clean this like area that you can see twice just to get the oil off. Like it got on the floor. It was a lot. So now I have just enough to coat it. You can kind of see here. Here's our stuff. And I do have this cover that my parents bought recently. So I'm going to do that just to try to get through this recipe. So let me see if I can remember how, I guess Probably help if I knew how to do the cover. That seems accurate. Okay. So, all right. So we're going to put this on low. Probably really help if we also did the correct one. All right. So, fingers crossed. All right. So we were a very brave girl. And actually managed to cook this in the oil, not as much oil as we discussed, but yeah, so these are our steaks. And now it's time to make gravy. This is my first time making gravy. It's my first time making this dish at all. So I'm very excited about it. I'm not normally big into gravy, like on mashed potatoes or anything like that. A friend of mine did make a vegan gravy one time, which this is obviously not going to be a vegan gravy, and that was actually really good. I want to say it was like maybe like a tomato gravy or something. But yeah, so for your gravy, you want 4 tablespoons of drippings from the skillet. So the way I understand that is you've cooked the meat and you have like sort of drippings from the meat on your skillet. I don't know, I think I have 4 tablespoons, but I also didn't do like the 1.5 cups of oil. So we're going to just see how this goes. This is my pan looks like right now, so we'll see if I can add oil if needed. It does not say what heat to cook it on, so I'm just going to go ahead and do low. Like, I feel like low is probably the safest. So we do that, and then do that, and 3 tablespoons of flour. Oh, this is going to burn. So I'm supposed to stir that constantly, and yeah, I'm going to add some oil, I think. Normally I would like, I don't think I really care about the gravy, but I know that's a big part of chicken fried steak, is that gravy. It is one of the dishes where, you know, I'm not eating gravy for them. I'm like, yeah, this needs gravy. So, anyway, you're supposed to heat this until it's bubbling. And I will say, like, I added the oil, and it does kind of already look gravy-ish, so that's reassuring. You know, if you're watching me and you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? My best. Okay, I'm doing my best. And we have bubbles. It's bubbling up our drippings and oil and flour mixture. So we are going to add 2 cups of milk. Right. And then 1 teaspoon. 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. And then just mix that up. Alright. And then it says we're going to stir this until thickened. So you don't get it siak, y'all. It's going to be siak. Alright, so we're all done. This is our chicken fried steak. I did add a little bit more flour to the gravy mixture, and I think that made a big difference. And I say that not as a criticism of this recipe, but as a criticism of my own cooking skills and my popping oil phobia. All right, so it is time to try this. It does look like the chicken fried steak I've had before, so you know, it meets the aesthetic criteria. Okay, so we're gonna get a small enough piece that we don't do the chicken fried steak dance like I did the taco dance last time. So, all right, here we go. Yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. I might use a little less salt, but overall, I think the flavors are really good. So we have a rating system here, and I actually forgot to rate last week's recipe, or sorry, last episode's recipe. But we will go ahead and rate this one. So if you are new here, or if it's been a while, our rating system is, would I make this for myself again, and would I make this for someone else? I'm actually going to flip it. So first we'll do, would I make this for someone else? Yeah. And I would also make it for myself, but like, I think just because like with the popping oil stuff and everything, I think I would need someone to like make it with me, and kind of just like pat my hand and be like, it's okay, people cook with popping oil every day. You can do it. Like, I believe in you. So probably like do that, like make it again, like with my mom or my sister or Elinor Donahue. Anyway, so that is the end of episode 11. Feel free to like, comment, if you're on YouTube watching this, to subscribe. Y'all have a great Thursday evening. Hope you have a great Friday and a great weekend, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.